Did you know there are people who genuinely believe that you cannot be authentic? That authenticity is just another illusion and something that people want to convince themselves of, but it's not real, it's not obtainable, it's just another mask. And I'm here to say that's not true. And I know it's not true because I connected to my authenticity. And today I want to talk about the 5 things that happened to me that I became aware of when I did unlock my authenticity. And I use that word unlocked intentionally because that is part of how the experience feels. It feels like a discovery. And that's a big part of discovering your authenticity is that it's something that you're reconnecting to, and because it's a reconnection or it's something that you realize about yourself, there's this part of you that does expand when it happens, and it feels like you're unlocking a door or a treasure chest because, like, one moment you were here, and then another moment you had an experience where you felt something new in yourself, but it felt so genuine and real that you're now over here and you can never go back over here because now you're aware, like, oh wow, I can experience life, I can experience these emotions over here. And it makes you see that life has all these possibilities, or you in yourself and what you're capable of feeling have all these possibilities. So it really does feel like an unlocking sensation when you do grow into your authenticity. And I'm of the belief that we are all authentic, and we lose our authenticity basically by being socialized. And there's both. I don't think being socialized means we inherently lose all of our authenticity. I think it's the kind of socialization that we have. And also, just almost blatantly speaking, we live in what many would describe as a narcissistic and psychopathic uh, and schizophrenic society. And I can definitely relate to that when I think about just the way, some of my peers growing up would talk to each other, or seeing the ways in which certain teachers or adults would talk to students, or the ways in which people would talk about themselves and other people. You could just see that um, people could be quite callous, mean, abusive, and it created a lot of fear in terms of how you could be or show up. And especially with like mainstream Hollywood or certain shows and movies, they kind of portray, they have the power of telling us what is real, and they can portray behavior that's really inappropriate and make us think, oh, this is normal, or this is okay, or this is what's funny and acceptable, even if it's quite shallow, crude, abusive, just not even natural. Like, we almost get tainted, I feel. And so I think in this process of growing up and socializing, all these things, as well as wanting to be accepted, that's just a natural human desires. We want to be accepted. We can lose part of ourselves in that process. But I think just as natural as it is that, you're a kid and you have a wonder with life and you enjoy your life and all these things, you can still reconnect to that as an adult. And I think the adults who feel disillusioned by life or feel like there's not meaning or magic in life, I'm of the firm belief they're disconnected from their authenticity and that kind of core sense of power and knowing that attunes you to the world and also makes you feel alive. And so for me, one of the first things that I noticed when I unlocked my authenticity, and when I say unlocked, it was a series of moments. It's something that we're ever expanding into, that gets ever realer with you having newer and newer and more experiences, but also as you grow into yourself, you get to see yourself fill in those spaces as well. And that's part of the newness and where you get to almost see how you respond. And so the first thing that I noticed when I was unlocking more of my authenticity was that I felt happier and freer. And this was really significant for me because I felt like so trapped for a lot of my adolescence. Um, yeah, I just kind of felt like that time, like once it's like I hit puberty, the middle school era, and then kind of onward into young adulthood, I just had such a sense of being imprisoned. Um, like suddenly there were all these rules that we had to know and assimilate to, and suddenly, you know, all these reasons or ways you could be picked out or made fun of, even if you were being genuine, it seemed like there was a different value system than something kind of real and pure. And, uh, part of conforming to that or wanting to do well in the society is you're like, okay, well, I guess I'll adhere to it and conform and become more competitive and high performing and all these things. But you end up building a prison because now you have to keep up appearances that you are this thing, and it feels one isolating. Like for me, I did not learn about emotional regulation. I just didn't. And I had bad habits that were my ways of coping with negative emotions. And when I did those habits, they made me feel really guilty about myself because I felt out of control. And so a lot of people, when they feel like they're living almost like a double life, like they feel like, oh, there's an outward version of me that I show to the world that, it's like that's the acceptable one. And then the one internally is like you do maybe behavior you're ashamed of that you wouldn't openly admit to because that is your way of compensating and coping with ignoring your emotions so much and stifling and suppressing your emotions so much. So for me, I had a lot of emotional suppression. And when I started to be more authentic, which for me, at its most core, it was just like I had an emotion and I felt it. I didn't hide it. I didn't let I didn't keep up appearances because that would make other people feel better. I just really felt it and I was there with myself. I mean, at its core, I was doing emotional regulation. And that was such a big key for me unlocking my authenticity. And from there, I just started to feel so much freer because it's like I wasn't living this double life. And then B, I also was happier. I didn't need to cope in negative ways because I actually felt my emotion in the moment. I didn't suppress it. I didn't run away from it. I felt what I felt. I dealt with it in the moment. I was there for myself in the moment. And then I could move on. I could do my own thing. It wasn't like I had to hold on to things and whatever. It's like I really did feel it and got over it. The other side of the freedom and the happiness though is just like it's not just, oh, I can feel hard emotions and move on from them. It's like I could actually indulge in happy emotions too. Like I felt more free to be experimental and try new things, or um maybe be more outspoken in a way that before I wouldn't have felt comfortable doing. But because I felt like, oh, I'm genuinely curious about this, or oh, I noticed this thing, or I want to talk about this thing, I felt it was safe and fine for me to express that. And so it just gave me more happiness and freedom because I could actually be an explorer, um, without fear of punishment. And it doesn't mean that other people, you know, everyone's just like, oh, yeah, that's great or something. Sometimes people have their own reactions, but I also learned that I can't take that personally. And I can't take that to mean that, oh, I should never ask questions, or I should never joke around, or I should never try new things. I was just like, oh, that's you, and you're totally allowed to have your feelings and your emotions. And ultimately I want to respect you. So if I just bothered you, like, okay, noted that bothered you. I'm not trying to do that more. Uh, but do you see what I'm saying? Where it's like, it stopped, I stopped using myself as the kind of like the obedient tool to reflect and make sure other people were okay. It's like I was in tune with myself. And so because of that, um, I showed up in a different way, which was really fun. But also, if I noticed that someone didn't like me being me, which again, when we say authenticity, this is not a means to like um, excuse bad or poor behavior. Um, but like sometimes conflict does come up, and that's just a natural part of life. Obviously, reducing conflict is more ideal than not, and it's necessary to know how to deal with conflict in your life. So if you've never like read a communication book about dealing with conflict, I recommend you do. There's a great book called Nonviolent Communication. That's really useful for that. Uh, so obviously here I'm not indulging or sanctifying just being um, careless to other people and using authenticity as a means to excuse bad behavior. There's consequences to our behavior, but also you being in touch with what you feel and doing things that are like within your rights and within your domain is a very liberating thing, and it's really fun. And sometimes that does trigger people, which brings me to my second thing that I realized about being more authentic, or something that happened as I became more authentic, was that my growth and authenticity was often witnessed by other people. Like it did come out a lot in confrontation, meaning me being authentic was sometimes, you know, as I was talking to someone or as I was around people, because it was like there was just a feeling in myself where I was like, I'm not going to do this thing, or I feel this way, and that is what it is, and you can handle it. You will handle it. You know what? I am not the only one who has to be responsible and assume responsibility about other people's emotions. And that one, man, I think that's just such a big point to take home. I just witnessed this in so many girls and women, especially high performers, really high performers who they just assume responsibility across the board. Actually, even a friend I recently made, she was talking about this, how she was describing how she always wants other people to feel comfortable, and she's like, if there's ever a hard challenge, I feel like I should take it on, but not other people. Like, I'm the one who can bear it, I can do it. She really used those words. And I in a way I was kind of laughing to myself, because I was like, oh my gosh, I totally know that feeling. And also, it's definitely a thing that high performing women can go through, is that we develop this um sense of assuming responsibility and taking care of other people's emotions, because in a certain way we're protecting ourselves. Ultimately, we actually develop this as a way to protect ourselves from other people's emotions, because other people, when they're upset or mad or whatever, it actually can be super painful and we can take it really personally. And so for us as high performers who can handle a lot and do a lot, we actually just take it on. We're like, you know what, I'll do the challenge, because I can actually bear hearing myself be unhappy about this, but hearing you be mean or unhappy, like, I can't bear it. I almost can't bear feeling your emotion or feeling any meanness come from you. And so I'll just take it on. And so we do a huge disservice both to ourselves and other people, because some other people need to have those experiences too. Like, there's no reason that A, we should take things on, but B, um, if we are doing it as a self-protective mechanism, meaning, okay, I'm just gonna assume, I'm just gonna walk on eggshells, and I am going to assume responsibility of everybody's emotions here. I'm gonna make sure everybody feels happy or whatever. First of all, you're just not going to do that. No offense, but it's not possible. I tried. It's not possible. You think you're doing it, and then you find out, oh, someone was annoyed because of the assumption you made about them, and then you feel like an ass. And now you're like on this different path where you're experiencing guilt because you're like, oh, I wasn't working hard enough and thinking about what they felt enough. And it's like, no, again, it's just the issue of assuming too much responsibility. And so what happened for me as I stepped into my authenticity was that I was like, I became okay with feeling conflict with people. I became okay with feeling other people's negative emotions. I became okay with feeling my negative emotions in the face of other people and expressing it. And it was pretty amazing to see what happens, because if you stay in integrity, meaning, you're not, again, using abusive language or being entitled and whatever, but you're standing your ground, and you're respecting what you feel and you're expressing what you're feeling, and the other person is now getting upset and wants to lodge the responsibility onto you. Like, it's one thing when you assume responsibility because you're protecting yourself, and then it's another thing when you confront someone and then they want you to take on the responsibility even though it's not yours to take on. Then it's like this almost literal moment of the thing that you have internalized actually happening, and you're like, oh, I see why I internalized that, because it's literally happening. You literally want me to assume all the responsibility. And so what happened was just that, like, I became comfortable with seeing other people's negative emotions. I became comfortable with accepting that people could disappoint me, that people could actually change before my eyes, that people could be weak in my eyes. I actually developed the ability to accept um, other people being low, and it didn't mean that I cast them out or that I never wanted to see them again or something like this, but it meant that I wasn't protecting them for my own sake. I allowed them to be what they were and to kind of handle their own stuff. And in a way, like, it can be very confrontational, and um it generally is expressed through other people, and that's really what I'm trying to say here. It's like I realized that being authentic, or what happened to me as I became authentic, was that it came out more and more with people. And sometimes it was people that triggered me to be more authentic, because I was like, I can't do this anymore. There's no other way to be, because I was having this relationship with my internal self with meditation and emotional regulation. I brought that with me in my interactions with people. And so it's like, to me, that opened the doors in terms of, I just saw how other people had their own baggage and how other people had their own stuff to deal with, that it was not my job to assume that responsibility. And so I actually felt more free as well, because I was no longer taking on other people's emotional baggage and assuming it as my job and my role to understand and parse out and figure out and walk around and dance around, make sure everyone else is okay. I stopped carrying that, and it felt amazing. Because I was okay with almost like both being disappointed and disappointing other people, because it's like, if I'm not doing what you say, you're going to be disappointed by that. Like, if you expect me to take on some kind of assumed emotional responsibility and I'm not, and you're disappointed, I became okay with feeling that feeling of, oh, you are disappointed with me. I became okay with that. And that's something that happened, and it really is totally okay. Okay, so a third thing that happened when I became more authentic is I became more calm. I became more calm just in everything, because I just realized, like, there's so much huff and puff that we make about life, or there's so many like projections and assumptions we make about social interactions or people or moments, and a lot of it never comes true. It's not going to happen. And we can even be scared of it happening, or we can just be making up stories that feed into anxiety. That's one end of it, but another end of it, it's like just in interactions, I just felt more calm. Just in my own life by myself, I felt more calm because I didn't feel like I was living any kind of double life. I wasn't living with guilt. I wasn't living with shame. I wasn't using bad coping habits. It's like I just was healthier and more calm. And people talk about, oh, find peace, find peace, find peace, but also finding your authenticity. I think to us, what is authentic to us is, I think inherently we are peace. I think that's just a natural part of us. And so connecting to your sense of peace or doing practices around peace is very much a way of connecting to who you are, because when I am connected to myself, I feel very calm about things. I don't really feel like things really need as much, maybe, labor and stress as certain people can give them, because they're often just being kind of anxious about how other people will perceive things. The fourth thing that happened to me um, when I became more authentic, when I unlocked my authenticity, is I became more consistent. I felt just more real, and I felt I was more consistent in who I was, who I showed up as. And it strengthened me to show up more often to the things that I cared about. It strengthened my ability to show up more often in relationships because I didn't feel like I was hiding anything. It was just natural. Um, and let's see. Yeah, I think I also could be more consistent because I wasn't as weary about wearing a mask so other people could feel good about themselves. It's just like, yeah, I actually want to do that. It's fun. It's not like, oh, I need to put on a social mask, and so therefore my battery is going to get low, my social battery will get low, and all that kind of stuff. It was like, no, if I genuinely want to do something, I do it. It's not about, oh, I need my social battery to recharge. It's like, because I'm wearing a mask. I think a lot of people, their social battery drains because they're wearing a mask around people because they're assuming they have to show up in a certain way and whatever. And then they're not as consistent, or they don't show up as much as they would like to. And I would just say to that, it's like, your likes and dislikes will always tell you where you want to go and what you want to do. And if you're excited or curious about something, that's all the proof you need to know that it's going to be worth it. If you feel like, I don't really want to do it, that's all you need to know to not do it. And sometimes you can go through with something that you're like, I didn't know I wanted to do that, and then it actually can be a great thing. You never know. Sometimes you can be disappointed. Anything's possible, but you're just more consistent in who you are. You don't feel like, oh, I'm putting on this mask and therefore I'm acting and pretending as a different person. You're just consistent when you're by yourself and when you're with people, and it feels really amazing. And being consistent feels amazing. Okay, and my last thing that I noticed happened to me as I became more authentic was that I became more cool. And, cool is often something that, like, kind of other people give, like, um, if you were to walk around and be like, hey man, I'm so cool, people are going to roll their eyes and be like, okay, you're definitely not cool. Like, why you got to tell me you're cool? And so for me to be here and be like, well, I became more cool, uh, could seem maybe paradoxical there, but I really just felt it in my life. Like, cool to me is a feeling. It's a feeling, like things are chill, things are relaxed. And to me, cool has the sense of things are fun, things are in flow, and it's even very like it's artistic. Like, it just feels right. It feels really good. It feels really right. It feels really natural. It feels healthy. And I feel all those things being more authentic. And I think someone sensing that would just say, oh, that feels or looks cool. And it's like, yeah, I really do feel cool. I feel like a cooler person, and I have self-respect for myself because I know myself. I listen to myself all the time. And uh I'm not waiting on other people to understand me first, or I'm not like needing other people's validation to see me and understand me first in order to feel cool, because it's like I'm with me, I had the conversations with me, and yeah, I understand myself. And so often people kind of give up their authenticity because they're like, they want people to see something great in them. And that's really natural. That's really natural. We all want to be seen as important and special. But it all starts with you and the way that you see yourself. And so, yeah, I think having a relationship with yourself and acknowledging the parts of you that are cool, giving yourself credit for that, like, yeah, that is cool, actually. That is a cool thing that I do. I am cool in that way. And, it's not that you're bragging or boasting, there's nothing extra to it. It just is. That's cool. That's just what cool is, I feel like, definitionally. And yeah, it's a very powerful way to feel because it feels really good. It's truly a great feeling. And to me, I think it's the closest thing to like flow state, or it is a part of flow state, and it's quite beautiful. So, those are the 5 things that happened to me that once I unlocked my authenticity and n- have made being authentic such a worthwhile experience and endeavor. And really, it's a spiritual experience, because you learn something that is even greater than you by being willing to be with yourself. It's not just limited to you. Authenticity is alive in so many parts. It's you start by listening to it in yourself, and then it expands to how you see it in the world and just kind of respecting it all around you. So if you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. I'm curious about any stories you might have of things that happened to you when you unlocked authenticity in yourself, or um, what are traits that you notice in other people that you view as authentic? What are things that you see and you're like, they must be having this kind of experience? It might be a bit of a projection or not, but what are things that you admire about people who seem authentic? I'd love to see your comments, and um, there are links in the description. I do offer one-on-one coaching. You can do a complimentary 30-minute call to see if we are compatible with each other, if we'd be a good fit. I'd love to talk to you there. There is a link down below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.